The Sony takeover is happening. It's time. Bungie is losing their independence, and a lot of people are talking about this because the Sony CEO has spoken about Destiny 2, Bungie, and Marathon in its most recent earnings call. So let's jump into this. Sony will curtail Bungie's independence, folding it into PlayStation soon. All right, there it is. Can you imagine the dissolution of Bungie? That sounds crazy. Sony discussed many aspects of its PlayStation business in a recent earnings call. With one bit of news that's somewhat eyebrow-raising, it was a frank discussion about what's happening with Bungie and how PlayStation is going to take a more heavy-handed role than they originally said they were at the time of purchase. Now, originally they said that they were giving Bungie complete creative independence to take the game in whatever direction they want. And the reason why is because Bungie is the company that built up Destiny 2 to be a multi-billion-dollar franchise, right? They did that. Love them or hate them, they did that. So surely they would have the creative vision necessary to maintain that standard. But that's not really what happened now, was it? That's not what's happened over the last few years. In fact, Bungie may have pulled off the psyop of the century here, where they sold to Sony at the peak. You sell at the peak, right? You don't sell at the valley. You don't sell at the low point. You sell at the peak. They sold at the peak with multiple incubation projects in the works and with a sterling reputation like Halo, Destiny 1, all of that being their resume basically made it so that they had this sort of Bungie magic that they called it, that any game project they work on will be successful. It's like the Midas touch. Anything you touch turns to gold. At least that's what they thought. Then the acquisition happened, and they grew fat from strength and from purchasing many exotic cars. And they got lazy, and Destiny 2 has felt like a very lazy game over the last few years. Minus maybe the Final Shape. The Final Shape, they put in work there. Aside from the launch of Final Shape, Bungie has made a big deal out of the fact that despite being bought for $3.6 billion by Sony, it would retain its independence as a company with its own leadership in place. Now, that's slipping away due to problems at the company and the studio's performance. And of course this is going to slip away. Of course this is going to happen because when Sony purchased them, they own them, right? They own your company. And then you now have to meet a quota. You now have to meet certain monetization marks and a certain standard. And when you don't meet that, then they step in and they're going to replace various different executives, various different devs, and then they're going to try to meet their quota. Hopefully, Destiny 2 under Sony's leadership is an improvement over Bungie. We actually don't know if it will be. We assume so, but we don't know. Hopefully it is though, because Destiny, in my opinion, at its core, is one of the best games ever. It just needs a passionate team of devs, an absolutely massive budget, and maybe a few other things that I'm not mentioning here. But Destiny has potential. The CFO for Sony, Lin Tao, talked about this on the call, about the governance of Bungie at the time of acquisition. We were offering a very independent environment, so that was one way of thinking, Tao said. However, we have gone through structural reform as we announced last year, so this independence is getting lighter, and Bungie is shifting into a role which is becoming more part of PlayStation Studios, and integration is proceeding. In the long term, you can see this as an ongoing process, so the direction is to become part of PlayStation Studios, so Bungie will be absolved. They will be dispersed within PlayStation Studios. Will the name continue on? I don't know. I genuinely think that my prediction, and this is just my thoughts on that situation, I genuinely think that the result of Marathon will decide whether or not Bungie, the name itself, continues on. If Marathon can deliver in any sort of way a viable game, doesn't have to be that successful, it just has to be able to stand on its own 2 feet, then Bungie continues as a company. If Marathon flops, tanks, crashes and burns, and turns into the dumpster fire that we're predicting it to be, then Bungie as a company, Bungie as a name will be gone, and they will be fully absolved, and they will just be a memory, a distant memory. The devs will be a part of PlayStation Studios. And honestly, it'll be a fond memory because Halo has brought a lot of people some of the best memories in gaming, and Destiny 1 and parts of Destiny 2. But a lot of those OGs that made Bungie an incredible company are gone. They're gone. They've been transitioned over to other studios. They've started their own projects. They're doing other things. A lot of Bungie's very best talent is gone, and they've been gone. So what we have left is a husk of a once great studio. And there are some good devs there still. I'm not saying that every dev in Bungie is a potato, but there's a decent amount of potatoes there. And the spaghetti code that puts together Destiny 2 is a mess. Can Sony step in and fix everything? We shall see. The past few years has seen the mass departure of many members of Bungie leadership. Oh, very good. Destiny creative leads Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy. These two were the GOATs. We needed these guys. Love them or hate them. These two had an excellent creative vision. They pushed the game in a direction that was very ambitious. And honestly, under their leadership, a lot of good stuff happened. Some mid stuff happened as well, some flops, but a lot of good stuff happened under them. Former Destiny 2 game director Joe Blackburn, the GOAT, needs to come back, all right? We need Joe Blackburn back, all right? The first thing I do, if I'm the Sony CEO and I take over and I absolve the company, is I hire Joe Blackburn back again. We need him. Bring back Joe. We need hashtag bring back Joe trending across all social media. And former Marathon director Chris Barrett, the last of whom was forced out after a misconduct investigation. And he's currently suing Sony and Bungie over what he says he's still owed as a part of the Bungie sale, which is a very spicy lawsuit. We have not gotten the conclusion of that just yet. We shall see. He's meant to be owed tens of millions of dollars potentially, though. As I understand it, there's a sense that even more Bungie leadership, perhaps even its most senior executives, are likely going to depart the company within a year or two when aspects of their Sony deal go through and they're able to leave with millions. So basically, a part of the buyout was there was a timeline by which they would leave. And so once they've accomplished that timeline, that's a part of the $3.6 billion acquisition, they can then leave without any penalties and cash in these crazy multi-million dollar bonuses. And so we're going to see a big shift up. Pete's staying in there just long enough to make sure he cashes in every last dollar of that $3.6 billion acquisition. He's going to, you know what Pete should do? Pete should go on social media and just start flexing his cars afterwards and just be like, what's up? Try to fire me? Pete. Damn it, Pete. The PR around Pete is brutal. Inside reporting has said that unless Bungie hit certain metrics, PlayStation leadership would take over. That appears to be what's about to happen. Is becoming a part of PlayStation going to be good for a franchise like Destiny and the upcoming Marathon? Many players seem to think so, given how poor much of Bungie's leadership has been. I think it's possible that it could be good. I don't know that PlayStation is looking to, just put Destiny 2 on steroids and build this game up. I kind of wish, maybe I'm wrong in thinking this, I kind of wish that Microsoft had acquired Bungie, because Microsoft is literally printing money. And if they saw an opportunity to blow the game up and profit off of it in the process, they might actually, pour gasoline on the fire and really get the game going again, right? Really rev the engine of what Destiny 2 can do and what is possible for Destiny 2. That's not to say that Sony doesn't have money as well. They do. It's just Sony doesn't have Microsoft money. Let's look at the comparison. Sony, I want to see what Sony's net worth. How much money is Sony worth? Let's look this up. Sony, as of August 2025, Sony's market cap is $150 billion. Wow. What is Microsoft worth? Oh my God. Wait a second. You got to look this up. Let's see here. What is Sony worth? Sony as a company is worth $150 billion. So they have a lot of money, right? They've got a lot, but they also have a lot of studios and a lot of games to invest in. They were able to fork over, $3.6 billion is nothing for them. But now when you look at the comparison of what is Microsoft worth? Microsoft is worth $3.86 trillion. How did I not even know that it was worth? How was I not aware of this until just now? They're worth $3.8 trillion. And this is their closest competitor. We're talking like a power dynamic that is drastically different. We're talking about a ridiculous power dynamic. Microsoft is infinitely more powerful than Sony. Imagine if Sony was like, hey. Imagine Sony sells the rights of Destiny 2 to Microsoft. It comes full circle. You're thinking that money equates to good gameplay. It doesn't. I'm not saying that money equates to good gameplay, but what I'm saying is this. We already know what Destiny is. We know what we like in Destiny. What we generally, not always, but we generally need is more content, right? And that involves more devs and a bigger studio. we don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel of Destiny. Like the game, the core gameplay, the dynamics work well. It's just imagine you load it into Destiny right now, right? And there's just like the budget for Destiny is 5 times what it is. And so when you click solo ops, instead of there being 6 options, there's 25, you know? That's what I'm talking about. That's what having a big budget's about. 25 solo ops. You click on Pinnacle ops, instead of there being 4, there's 12, you know? That's what a big budget does for you. Doesn't necessarily mean that all of those missions and all of those things are going to be awesome and incredible, but more almost always feels better because we already know what Destiny is at its core. I mean, you think about some of the shit we're doing here, guys. You think about some of the shit we're doing here. What is this? This made me laugh the other day. Like, we're out here doing some of these like the D1 strike. Like, this is the Devil's Lair. This is like the most OG mission. This is like a 12-year-old mission. Bungie might have developed this before we ever saw it, like 15 years ago or more, because this is like one of the most OG missions in the entire Destiny universe. It's probably like 15 years old, and it's still in modern Destiny right now. We need more missions. We need more solo ops. We need more fireteam ops, more pinnacle missions, more exotic missions. We need to get back to 2 raids a year. And not reprised raids. We need new raids. That's only possible if you got a crazy budget. And I'm not saying money fixes everything, but money definitely buys you a bigger studio. It buys you more devs. And if you already know what the vision for the game is, like all these missions have a similar gameplay loop to them. They're not radically different from one to the next. If you know what the general vision is, you can just start fucking churning this machine like crazy and getting these missions out and getting new experiences out left and right. That's all I'm saying. We've seen what the effects of less money has done to us, right? We've just had 2 rounds of layoffs, and now the Edge of Fate has just launched with a very little, very bare bones amount of content. We've seen the effects of less budget. Less is never more, right? It's just not how it works. What I want to see is a massive budget. I want to see some gasoline be poured on the fire that is Destiny 2. And Sony might do that, and I hope they do. I hope they realize the potential for what this game could be. Maybe that's why they bought it in the first place, right? Maybe they, maybe they're out there, they're Destiny fans after all. Likely they bought it just because Microsoft is buying up everything. Microsoft is basically buying everything to the point where Sony wanted to capture something before they, they basically just lost the race. They still have a lot of money, don't get me wrong, 150 billion is not bad, but like you could see that Microsoft could very easily absolve Sony and not even notice, like due to the size and scale of Microsoft. They could easily just buy Sony. Sony's not for sale. They're not going to sell, I'm sure, but they could just buy them, right? And that's when you've lost, when your competition could just buy you and effortlessly purchase you and not even notice, like, yeah, they're winning, Interesting stuff, though, to see in regards to Bungie losing their independence. Hopefully, fingers crossed, this is good news for Destiny 2. I think that if we had to create a timeline when we'll actually see the effects of this, they're probably working on, they're usually about 6 months ahead, so they're probably already finishing up. They probably just recently finished up Renegades, so maybe the next annual expansion that comes out 1 year from now, we might start to see some of the Sony influence and takeover involved in it. So maybe by next year, we'll see some improvement. Certainly by 1.5 years from now or 2 years, we'll see a big improvement, if there is any improvement at all. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below, though. Make sure to subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Later.